Hi, this is Jeff Cohn from SI Restoration, and thank you for watching this video on how to find a mold abatement company to take care of your mold issue. And I use the word mold abatement, but there are probably plenty of mold companies that mold cleanup companies would look at this and go, "No, Jeffrey, we're a mold remediation company." And my answer is, yep, you're correct, except that there are different terms for the same concept of getting rid of the mold. And one of them is mold abatement. So I'm going to use the term mold abatement in this for those who are used to using mold abatement. Now, before I even begin, I wanted to quickly go over who I am. Again, I'm Jeff Cohn from SI Restoration. For 35 years, my brother and I have started and owned this company, and we've been remediating mold through the Baltimore, Maryland, Central Maryland, and Washington, D.C. area. Now, we are also IICRC certified. Explain why that is later. Okay. So you have turned this video on because you'd like to know, how am I going to choose? Let's take an example. You have gone down to the basement to do your laundry, and uh, presto, there's mold. You didn't see it before, and you see it on the wall. Excuse me, I got an itch in my head. And you then run upstairs because you're getting nervous and you want to get out of that area because you don't want to have any breathing issues. And you just said, okay, I need to get rid of it. So what I'm going to do is, like with everybody else, is you go onto the internet or Google and you search for mold abatement, okay, and or mold abatement companies. And there's just a load of companies. And you look through the websites, and everybody says they're the best, and everybody loves them, and they got it, and they're the company you should choose. And you're like, how do I choose? And most people use the try and true method of, one, meeting the company and getting that warm, fuzzy feeling of trust. And two, the prices sounds right. Now, I want to kind of go over, instead of saying to you, gee, if you're in the Baltimore, Maryland, DC area, you should use SI Restoration, which of course that's what I'm going to say, like everybody else. But what I'd like to do is educate you on the different processes that are out there, and then let you make the decision, especially if you're not in the area that I'm in. So let's begin. As we said, you're on the internet and you start looking, and you happen to see someone advertising $600. I'm making the number up. $600 to clean to excuse me to perform mold abatement. And now I will tell you, and for a reference point, the average, and I've done the research, the average residential mold abatement pricing has been around between $1,500 and $3,500. And there is a reason why that 1,500 is a minimum. But you somehow found that out, and you all of a sudden sold $600, and you said, look, well, I might as well give the $600 a try first. Hopefully it'll work. So the $600 mold guy comes out. We'll call him the $600 mold guy. And he has advertised, and he will tell you that he has and I'm going to make this is completely made up, the super duper mold killer triple X product that by spraying it on it is going to get rid of the mold 100% forever. And so you do that. He does that. He sprays it on there. And you're saying to yourself, oh, gee, boy, I wonder if I could get a gallon of that stuff. Boy, I wouldn't have had to pay $600. But he cleans it, and the mold is gone, and you're happy. And then about a couple weeks, a month later, you notice, it's starting to grow back. You don't understand that, because what he told you was, on top of the fact of cleaning it, it absorbed into the wall. Now, why does that matter if it absorbs into the wall? Well, you must understand, and this is the problem, that when people go to hardware stores, or to wherever you can buy some kind of product that kills mold, is that you go to clean it and then it comes back. And what you're doing is you're cleaning only the surface. Now, I'll explain that. So I want you, and for those who are botanists and biologists, I completely apologize if I'm butchering this, but I'm going to use what I call the dandelion example. And a dandelion are, they're out there in the spring and they pop up and they're actually nice looking. Some people eat them, but they're a weed and they take over. And so people want to get rid of those dandelions. So what they do is either they spray a chemical on the grass or they pull them. The problem about pulling them is you're pulling the flower, but you're not pulling the root system. And it's the same thing by applying a chemical on the grass, is that you're going to get a lot of them, but you're not going to get all the root system. And they're going to grow back, okay, eventually. And so what happens is it's the same situation when you have that mold on the wall. You have cleaned off or killed that yellow flower of the dandelion, but that root system's in there. But hold it, the $600 triple X chemical guy said that his product absorbs into the wall, gets those roots. Well, the problem is that number one, just like when you're spraying it, you're having spraying your lawn for weeds, you're not going to get them all. So you're not going to get everything. This company is not going to get everything. The second thing is the only way for it to completely get rid of the root system is to saturate the heck out of that wall. If you saturate that wall, it will become very loose and the chemical eventually loses its power, but the moisture is still there. And what happens is that water it becomes like basically like not like bad water. And what happens is now that water attracts mold spores that are in the house, and now you got more mold. So you got mold that's going to grow back anyway, and you cause more mold if they put enough in there into the wall. On top of that, make matters worse, here's what happens. So let's pretend that I'm in a glass wall and I'm behind it and I'm sort of explaining this to you. So let's say you have the mold here. And what happens is that I go as I'm going, I'm the $600 mold guy, and I'm going in there and I'm pretending to be the guy. And I'm going in there and I'm ready to go pss, 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 I'm spraying it. Okay. I know. And what happens is that as I'm doing that, the mold has a reaction. The mold itself has a way of, just like I always say, Star Wars. And if you know Star Wars, you know the movie. You know that they one of the scenes they shoot out a capsule of RD2 or I can't think of the characters. And basically, what happens is they go and find another planet. And excuse me, I'm sorry to be weird. And then what happens is that the same thing happens with the mold colonies. They're shooting out these mold spores to save the colony. And so those mold spores are going to fly in the air, which you breathe in. And then what they're going to do is they're going to uh, attach themselves to another wall and begin another mold colony in the same area, maybe a couple feet over. And so now you got double trouble. So as you can tell, spraying it is not a good idea. Whatever, I don't care what product you use or what kind of chemical. So that's number one. The second problem that you've got to watch out for is the companies that do mold testing and their end mold remediation on the same job or on this at your house. So to give you the best example, so because you're going to have companies who are going to say, well, and give you all the here's my reason why it's fine. All you have to do is quickly look at any of the United States states that have mold abatement licenses. And what happens is that in those, you will read that one of the requirements is that those who are testing for mold cannot remediate, or excuse me, who do not perform mold abatement, and those who perform mold abatement cannot do mold testing. It's a conflict of interest. And the best way to explain a conflict of interest is to understand this example. So let's say a child comes home from school, comes to the parents, Says, guess what, mom and dad? I got an A plus 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 plus. And the teacher and the parents go, oh, that is just amazing. We're gonna go buy a toy and everything. And then one of the parents says, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it, hold it. Never heard of this A plus 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 plus. He goes, yeah. He goes, did the teacher give that to you? He says, no. Gave it to myself. I graded my own test. So that he could have failed it. He could have been the worst essay, whatever it is, but he gave themselves an A plus plus plus. Now, these companies that do both will say, well, hold it, Jeff. All we're doing is taking the same samples and sending it to an accredited lab. The problem is that that accredited lab will say to you, and I've asked them, we can only accreditate and guarantee the results of what we're given. So how do we know that they took the right kind of samples and the right procedures, and there is a way, or it could have been real mischievousness, which I don't think most do, and that is they just collect it from somewhere else, not even in the house, and therefore they can come back and say, "Hey, guess what? We tested ourselves, and the mold spore count is so way down, you're fine." And it's a problem because especially dealing with health and medical issues. So my warning is if you have a company that says they do both, keep looking. So now we get to a place where you have companies who do mold abatement but are certified. Now, someone will say, are you certified? And people go, yeah, I'm certified. And everyone goes, good. And so the problem is that who are they certified by? And they'll say by the National Organization of, Mold, blah, 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 blah. And the reason I don't mention some of these organizations is because I'm familiar with them and I don't want to, for ethical reasons, I don't want to knock them down. But I can tell you I haven't found a mold certification organization except for one, which I will mention, that holds up to the standards and is legitimate, in my opinion. That's my opinion. If you go to start calling up some of these organizations, you'll realize that most of them are probably some guy out of his basement who has come up with a great business idea or may believe that he's certified these people, but there is no basis. There's no grounded, concrete, uh, confirmation that this is done, that the certification is worth its weight more than its paper. So the question you ask is, well, then who? So probably about 45 years ago, there is an organization that was started by mold abatement and water damage restoration companies called the IICRC. They did something a little different. Instead of saying, hey, we're just going to start a class and start teaching people stuff, they went in and created a guideline called the IICRC S502 guidelines. But what they did is they brought in scientists, they brought in government agencies like the EPA, and other organizations and said, help us to look at this guidelines and tell us if we're on the right track. And if, and again, they don't endorse it, these organizations, they can't. But I believe that, in my memory from the last time I read it, there are definitely contributions by these folks, especially doctors who and researchers who go in and said, yes, what the claims you're making are valid. So there's also a type of mold tester called an industrial hygienist. And I know it sounds when I say industrial hygienist, you'd say, well, gee, why we can't, we're not, you would never call it an industrial hygienist to test for a house. But there are industrial hygienists who do test for houses. They're more money and cost more, but um, and I have another video that I talk about mold testing organizations, but they are basically, or not basically, they are uh, scientists, and they have degrees in biology, masters, and have taken tests, and some of them are certified through the state that you live in, and some of them are government certified. and have been blessed by the government and state, so the federal government. So there's a higher regard for their ability. Now, if you, it depending, people ask me, well, should I hire an industrial hygienist? And the answer, it depends. It depends on the situation you're in. Um, and if it's something pretty light, what I call, just when I say light, light means it's not really light. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. It's not as legally, for legal liability. Okay, if it's in in your basement and you want to have it tested, and you want to have it, make sure that it's completely gone, um, and check to make sure that your mold abatement company has done a good job. Some of these mold testers are legit, in my opinion. But if you own property, my advice is when you own property, that and you're in a property manager or your own property, 100% I would go with an industrial hygienist, because and again, watch my video for more information on that. So um as you can see, there are different avenues, but of finding and the right mold abatement company. But the problem is, and the good thing is actually, is that I believe in the IICRC organization, and that would be my recommendation to find it. Now, the IICRC, besides having the guidelines, which is a 250-page manual, it also has a list of companies that they have, a list of certified IICRC certified companies who actually gone in and have taken 3 to 5 day courses on mold remediation and have passed. And if you're a certified company, and I haven't checked in a while, but they do check for your insurance. They do check to make sure you know, you have that that you have at least insurance involved in it. Now, here's an interesting thing. Again, when you're trying to interview mold remediation companies, here's really important. Uh, Number one is if they have pollution control insurance. Ask them if they have pollution control insurance. If they do, they're a good company. If not, I'd be wary. So again, check my video on insurance, and companies that have insurance, and all that. So again, thank you very much. My name is Jeff Cohn from SI Restoration. If you have questions, go to www.si-restoration.com and get some articles, or contact me if you're in the Baltimore, Maryland, Washington, D.C. area. Thank you.